Yes, many thanks for staying with us. The program is still Frontline on New Frontiers Television, and this morning we will also be lending our voice to an ongoing conversation on the proposed tax reform bills. Earlier this morning, we talked about the president handing down a review order on the proposed tax reform bills because there was a protest at the National Assembly yesterday in respect of that. And just as we said that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu transmitted 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly on October 3rd, 2024, and these bills are the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024, the Nigeria Tax Bill Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. Together, this bill will overhaul tax administration and revenue generation in Nigeria, as many of the provisions contained in term and bench landmark in the nature. And looking at this bill, which did not come out of the blues, it's a product of a year worth of intense work and consultation by the Taiwo Oyedele-led Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, inaugurated by President Bola Tinubu in August 2023, and that is just 2 months after assuming office as the president. Well, we've listened to Taiwo Oyedele speaking on the rationale behind the tax reform bill by President Bola Tinubu, and this has generated a lot of controversies and objection among Nigerians. Joining us to have this conversation on the tax reform bills is Dr. Bayo Busari, a lecturer and a public affairs analyst with us this morning on the show. It's good to have you on the program this morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much, sir. So one of the objections raised concerning the bill is insufficient consultation, and which we've also heard some people talking about that the consultation are not enough before the bill is being passed. So what is your take on this?
Well, if we talk about consultation, and then we get to the point of whether it has been sufficient or not, the bills are laid before the National Assembly. Members of the National Assembly, both at the Senate and the House of Representatives, are supposed to be representatives of the people. So we are not consulting. We have, I think, 107 senators who are supposed to represent senatorial zones. Could they not discuss? Are they not supposed to have feedback with their constituents? Members of the House of Representatives, are they not supposed to have discourse with their constituencies? So if all of these, there are discussions, then what other consultation are we talking about? If we have issues, it's easier for us to approach legislatures and lay our issues before them, whether at the rep or Senate level. So if anybody is talking about insufficient consultation, to what extent have we explored the options that we have with our representatives? Then again, of course, I'm very, very sure there's going to be a public hearing on the bills. So we can go there and then make our submissions. So what are we talking about? Insufficient consultation. I think that is coming probably from those who are major beneficiaries of the current regime of taxing that we have in the country, and especially our governors. You've seen what has come from them. If we are talking about insufficient consultation, probably they are talking that the bills were not discussed, were not laid before the National Council of State. I wouldn't know whether that was done or not. And at other levels. But I think taxation is not a one-man orchestra. It's not the responsibility of the federal government alone. It cuts across all the 3 levels of government. So if there were no consultations, they are not consulting at those levels. If there were not, what did they do to draw the attention of the federal government to the fact that, if you are proposing this, we ought to have discussed. And if you didn't discuss, does that preclude us from discussing again? So I think the bills have more of political undertone than the current reality that we are seeing on the surface.
Than what is on the surface.
So I think, so if anybody, you just have to come up with just an excuse if you want to go against the bill. What we should be discussing are the nitty-gritties of the bills. Okay? Which areas do we think are not okay? Which areas do we think we can improve on? Which ones are okay? These are things that we should discuss. Whether we consult or not, do we need the bills? If there have been sufficient consultations, does it mean that, so the bill should have a smooth say or what?
Okay, so looking at the controversies these bills have generated, it seems we are fighting something that is pivotal for the progress and the growth of the nation economy. So what would you say is the fear or the concerns of people who are opposing it?
Well, in the first instance, I will take us to the statement credited to the former Vice President, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. And it was reported to have said, though it has not been denied or retracted, it was reported to have said that the bills will punish some states at the expense of some other states. If he's saying that the bill is intended to punish, why do we need to punish ourselves? If actually that is the intention of the bill, does it sound realistic that you are proposing a review of a law and the intent will be to punish? As there have been crimes that have been committed, that you are not bringing in laws that you now want to, punish the offenders. Are there offenders in the first instance? Okay, that is one. Number two is our governors. They have this laid-back attitude that at the end of the month, they go to Abuja, share, federally generated revenue, and everybody else back home, waiting for the next month. So I think from the little snippets that we are seeing from the bills, the fear is that, the way we've been sharing the accruement is likely to be affected, to be, redesigned by the bill. And in doing that, I'm likely to get lesser than what I've been getting before. But if you look at the principles of federalism, are states supposed to be sharing revenue on the same level? Is it not supposed to be, when we were young, when we played the community football that we played, that's what we called work and eat. Why should you benefit from what we have not been part of his production? So I think that's the laid-back attitude that they have. And if the fear is that, if the new beast comes on board, the likelihood is that, if I've been getting this, there's likely to be a restructuring and I may be getting less. If that happens, why don't you now begin to look at other means? Let's if you want to work at federalism, let's work it. And probably, look at, what are those characteristics that we can find with federalism? The resource control is part of it. So why don't governors begin to discuss the issue of, in Oyo State, I want to control resources that are domiciled in my state. Rather than someone coming from Zamfara, someone coming from Bayelsa, someone coming from Niger, to come and be exploring resources that I have in my state. So I want to have control over them. And then I can now pay tax. I think that was what we had before the military came in the 60s. Regions were paying taxes to the federal government. And if that is the principle of federalism, let's go back to that. So Oyo State, all the 36 states can pay taxes to the federal government. And at that point, you now begin to see a less cumbersome federal government. Interest will now be more to the states and perhaps, peradventure, to the local government rather than to the federal government. So there are a lot of things that we are even likely to gain if you run our federalism the way we should run it. All agitations, you begin to see that even insecurity might begin to go down. Because what it means is that, there are problems in Oyo State. Oyo State has to contend with his own problem. Not that someone in Borno is worrying about what is happening in Oyo State. That is the current arrangement. So these are things that I expect our governors to begin to discuss. And now say, if that is going to happen, if I'm generating so much for my state, I should have the right to withhold a certain percentage of what I've generated. If I'm going to contribute to the federal purse, it shouldn't be everything I'm generating. I think that's the principle of the bills that we're talking about. And that is the fear that our governors are having. Because nobody wants to work. Because you know at the end of the day, money will come in. That's the problem.
All right, let's quickly take a brief overview of the bills. And the first one is saying that the Nigerian tax bill is to eliminate multiple taxation. So what economic challenges can this aim to address, and what challenges do you foresee in achieving this? Fine, it looks so good on the surface, and many people have been saying that is one of the good things that is going to come from this present administration. But looking at this, it's going to eliminate multiple taxation. How do you think the federal government can achieve this?
Now, when you look at companies that have closed shop in Nigeria, and those that are intended to come but are stayed back, part of their complaints was that the amount of taxes that they have to pay, or that they have paid, or they are likely to pay in Nigeria was too much. You pay tax for almost everything. And everybody is now told it's raising the cost of doing business. And who bears the final cost at the end of the consumer? So when we talk about inflation and what have you, these are things that are going to them. Okay? Now, if you are now saying if you want to have a centralized and then reduce the number of taxes they are paying, I mean, it's fine for those who want to come and invest, and those that are already on grant. Look at several companies that have relocated from Nigeria. It's not that they closed their businesses. It's not that they relocated to places where they think they have more favorable environment to do their business. So if you want to attract foreign investors, there are things you have to put in place. And taxation is a critical component of it. So I think in that respect, the bill, if we run it with sincerity, is likely to, bring back and even draw new investors into the country.
Okay, another overview is that it's going to harmonize tax processes across all levels of government. And so how crucial do you think that is to the nation economy, and how is it going to affect the Nigeria business climate?
If we are sincere about it, and we are able to, rein in the level of corruption that we have in the country, the likelihood, and I've not seen mechanisms that have been put in place to bring down the level of corruption that we have in the country. I mean, we've had stories of tax collectors who have tinkered with revenue that belongs to the government. And I've not seen any time in this country where we have prosecuted those who did not pay tax. I've been racking my brain. I've not seen one. And it's a serious crime. For you to evade tax is a serious crime. So if we can bring in an environment that will lower corruption and then punish those who are running away from paying tax, this might work for us. The government needs to put in place mechanism, and we need to work on the human element. Because whatever fantasy idea you have, human beings are the ones that will run them. If you don't factor them in, you are likely to be back to where you started from.
Well, I was listening to Taiwo Oyedele during a town hall organized by China's TV, I think recently, talking about the rationale behind the tax reform bill, and saying that it wasn't the intention of President Bola Tinubu that this tax reform bill is going to be for revenue generation, that is just to better the economy. And I was now wondering that if tax is not to generate revenue, so what else are we looking at?
I think it's just trying to patronize us. The essence of tax is for revenue generation. Even advanced countries, there are certain times when they have to raise their tax level. And when they think the situation has come under control, they bring it down. To the extent that even at the end of the year, if you have overpaid, they make returns. And those who live in America, I mean, that's a period, majority of the people look to us. Oh, I'll get more income because it's not going to be taxed. And then they cannot invest that on some other things. So I don't think what he's saying that is not purposely. If it's not, what is the essence?
Exactly.
Companies will pay tax, individuals will pay tax. So if you pay, and we are paying money, where would that go to? It's not to government revenue. So I think he's just trying to placate us, just to lower our, inverted commas, our anger towards the bills.
Well, I was going through the bill yesterday, preparing for this conversation this morning, and looking at some of the things listed, I would say that it's going to favor the masses more. But it seems that this controversy keep coming in every time, and people are kicking against this. As much as these bills have received both knocks and kudos, but I think the controversy sometimes might be needless. But we can't run away from the fact that reforms or policies like this will generate controversies. Definitely. And maybe some objection also will be raised. But how do you think the government can better communicate to the people, perhaps who are not on the same page with the federal government on this? Moving forward, looking at these other reforms and policies that we think has not favored Nigeria, I think it's going to be some kind of platform on avenue for them to correct the wrongs. Now,
one interesting thing about us as a people, and essentially since we started our democratic journey in 1999, is that we've turned majority of issues into weapon of politics. Security, poverty, revenue generation, and what have you. And in our discussing these issues, I look at the way, our level of sincerity, our level of commitment, if I were the one to do it, I would have done it better this way. We're not stepping forward to provide alternatives that will be seen to be objective. I just drew an example of what Alhaji Atiku Abubakar said. If he's saying that the intent of the law is to punish, so what alternative is he proposing? I mean, these are things that the opposition party, opposition individuals, and what have you, they should be stepping forward with alternatives. And probably in doing that, if government still went ahead, you could now wait and say, when election comes, and I know, okay, the tax law that we have, if I happen to win the election, I'm going to do it this way. Okay? At that point, we will know that you are discussing from point of objectivity. But we've grabbed every opportunity that we've had so far, as if we are still running the elections. That's what I've seen our discourse of this issue and even previous issues that we've been discussing. It's not that we are discussing, they concern us, yes. But in the way they concern us are the way that we should bring forward alternatives that you cannot even put before. The lawmakers are going to, go through the bills. If you bring forward alternatives, these are things that you have PDP members in the National Assembly, you have Labour members in the National Assembly. What are their parties? Putting across to them. Not that you are just objecting these bills for the sake of objection. No, but this is you should propose this. Even if you say the bills are desirable, in what ways can we better them so that when they come out, it's better than what the presidency brought to the National Assembly. These are issues that we should be discussing. Not that we are just objecting to it, opposing it in a blanket manner.
All right. Looking at one of the points I was able to lay my hands on the bill is the fact that said VAT will no longer be calculated based on where the companies have their headquarters, but where the goods are consumed. So to me, it still looks as if people, the consumers, the end users, will still have to pay more.
No, it's not the end user. It's not the end user that's paying more. You see, and that is the crux of the matter. Especially with northern governors. That's the crux of the matter. You are not basing it on population. Peradventure, this product before us is sold throughout the country. In which state are people buying it more? So the VAT that is paid will be domiciled where it is consumed more, and in sharing is going to be on that basis. And you recall two critical issues, issue of alcohol and issue of cigarettes. Okay? You have laws up north that frown on consumption and sale of alcohol. So if you are not selling up there, if no one is consuming it up there, do you need to benefit from the revenue that accrued therefrom. That is the issue. And what has been, previously is that the revenue from VAT is shared in a blind approach form. Whether someone likes it or not, he still gets a share. So what I'm now saying is that, if you are buying this product here, the revenue that is generated therefrom resides here. So you don't get from it. So that's the problem. So probably if you now want, you can now liberalize your own environment too. And say, okay, since I need more money, I will come from this. Everybody is free to do whatever he likes. Only as much as within the ambit of the law. So that is the crux of the matter, and that might be the issue that especially law members who are from the north may have to contend with in the consideration of the bill.
So that's where the contention is coming from.
And that is it.
Okay, though Tawo Hidele did say that it's not for revenue generation, but we know that he was trying to patronize us. But aside revenue generation, what do you foresee, or what do you think is going to be the vision of the Nigeria tax system if this bill eventually is being passed?
You see, the essence of tax, and I think we have it within our major religions too, is to bring into parity as much as is possible, reduce the gap between those who have and those who do not have. That is the essence of the tax. If I'm richer than you, or if you are richer than me, you pay more tax than I would do. So what that means is that, if you are paying more and I'm paying less, the services that are going to be provided from what both of us have contributed, all of us are going to enjoy it. And I might not be able to, on my own, be able to make provision for that service. That's the essence of the tax. So the spirit behind it, whatever now comes in monetary quantity, is another issue. Probably that's why he said, it's not for purpose of revenue generation. It's just to reduce the gap between those who have and those who do not have. That's the essence. And if you're able to achieve that, everybody's going to be happier at the end of the day.
So you see this bill revamping the tax system of the nation?
Obviously it will. And it's spread over time. There are certain provisions there that say they projected up to 2030, which is about 6 years away. So, and that's where some people are expressing fears that, certain government agencies may be affected at the end of the day when the bill is passed into law. And I think government is addressing that in assuaging fears that we may have. Okay, because those agencies do bring to people certain benefits, and the fear is that if at the end of the day they are scrapped, those benefits that we have from them, unless we are getting them from other sources, may be a denial.
Yeah, a former Speaker of the House of Representatives, that is Yakubu Dogara, during the town hall saying, and I'll quote, that putting up the cap of leadership can resolve all these objections on the bills. A cap of leadership. And don't forget that we talk about leadership and where the objections are coming from. Do you also align with this line of thought?
Of course, you see, leadership puts a responsibility on you that may require that you even make personal sacrifices that may not be convenient for you. But because you put yourself forward as a leader, there are certain things. I might be hungry. And I have people around me who are hungry too. Because I'm the leader, if there's food, I won't say, I want to be the first person to eat. So we expect that leadership at this time should be more dispassionate, more clearly focused, and more clearly minded and objective in discussing certain national issues. That when you are putting your voice, we know, this is a voice of reason that we must listen to and consider. But when we begin to doubt your sincerity, even when you are saying something that is reasonable, it now comes to the issue of the messenger and the message. It comes to that. Do you consider the message and leave the messenger? Or do you consider the messenger? Whatever Alhaji says is likely to carry more weight than what I will say. So at times you may have to give constraint to the messenger before you even talk about the message. So leadership at this point should be more, pro people. Okay? And when we are coming to the table, we should be seeing that we are coming to the table with clean minds.
Without bias.
Without bias. There's no way you won't have. But to some extent, we should be able to control our biases and then put forward what we consider to be the national interest before our own interest.
Okay, now, the president has handed down a review order following the protest at the National Assembly as regards the proposed tax bill. Well, and people have often said that it's just like we mentioned earlier, that insufficient consultation is part of the objection being raised. So if you are allowed to make some recommendations as far as these old consultation reviews are concerned, what would that be?
Yeah, you see, those who sat to craft those bills, they didn't just wake up in one day. They must have done a thorough job. But that does not mean that what they have done could be absolute. So what it will mean is that we should open our minds and accommodate divergent views, and then review those views where we see that, oh, these are considerable, these are reasonable, they are progressive. Nothing, stops us from considering those views. But if you say, no, we've done what we need to do, we've done a fantastic job, no one could have done it better than we did. No. There's no absolutism in ideas. So people might see what you didn't see or see what you saw differently. And then when they, lay their views, you can now, consider and then try to explain. When you see a superior argument, you should bow to it. So those who are objecting, let us listen to them, consider what they have said, and then now see, to what extent are what they have said reasonable, and then we can consider and then accommodate in what we are doing. And it's better that people went to the National Assembly because those are the men and women that will consider the bills. Exactly. And then they should lay their own position. And I think as honorable men that they are, they will, take that and long when they are doing their consideration of the bills. I expect that from them.
So during those consultations and the roundtable discussion on the bill, who should we expect, or ideally, who should make up that table for this kind of consultations? Because some people are saying that they are being left behind, they are not on the same page with the federal government on this because they don't have enough information. So who should make up the people at this roundtable discussion on reviewing the bills?
The ball is now in the court of men of the National Assembly. So whatever we want to say, it has gone beyond the level of the executive because it has been laid and the lawmaker is the one that will consider them. Whatever they say is their final output that the president will either assent to or withhold his assent. So whatever we want to, our focus now should be on the lawmakers because they are the ones that the law has empowered to consider clause by clause, content by content, and then give their own final submission and then lay that before the president. So we should now be focusing on members of the National Assembly. Whatever we have, we should take it to them.
Today. All right, I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Bayo Busari, a lecturer at the Lee City University in the city of Ibadan, also a public affairs analyst, has to discuss the proposed tax reform bills, which has generated a lot of controversies among Nigerians. And looking at the bills, it's obvious that this Nigeria tax bill is like a biggest tool since Nigeria's independence, and it can also facilitate ease of doing business in Nigeria, and it's going to remove some confusion in tax matter and drastically increase revenue collection, while we are also reducing the tax burden on businesses and individuals. So it's simply a remarkable feat, a remarkable agenda coming from this present administration, that a single bill could do so much simultaneously. And we look forward to a better economy if this bill eventually is being passed into law. Once again, I want to say a very big thank you to Dr. Bayo Busari for his time on the show this morning. And I want to say thank you to our viewers for being part of the program this morning. We'll see you again tomorrow by God's grace. I am Temitope Oladipo. Do enjoy the rest of your day.